I was 21 years old when I became pregnant with my first son, my first child that I got to mother. And my seeking of God was always there. I couldn't make sense of the abusive dynamics, people thinking they're rational when they weren't, in my estimation, even as a child. So when I became pregnant with my son Tristan, for the first time I had something inside of me that moved on its own. When he started moving in me, I was dumbstruck by, I thought I was in control of my body. I had blocked out at that point the memories of my sexual abuse, in which I wasn't in control of my body and what happened to it. I guess you could say my first son was my first guru or teacher about God. Every time he moved inside of me, my mind would stop. I would question, what is this? What is this thing with a will of its own inside my body? Which in my front personality, the aspect I was most identified with as being who I am, I had the belief that I could control my body. I could walk where I wanted to walk. I could eat what I wanted to eat. I could move the way I wanted to move, and yet something was growing inside of me that I could not control. And I had no idea how he was being formed. If someone were to ask me, how do you make a baby? What are the steps? How do you take the parts from your body that build his parts? My mind had no clue. It was so obvious to me that there was a higher intelligence, higher and more vast and more intelligent than my own. And I have a high IQ. I'm extremely intelligent. Yet there was something that trumped that intelligence, and it was self-evident, growing inside of me. This may be the reason why there's more women in spirituality, generally. Not to mention the years of being subjugated and having the experience as a woman of being dominated, overridden, having our intelligence disrespected. That's what led me to the Church of Conscious Harmony and to exploring, who am I? What am I? And then I came upon a teacher, a woman named Bernadette Roberts, who wrote the book, The Path to No Self. And as I was taking one of her classes, she said something that terrified me. It was my biggest fear. Yet I was so relieved that somebody was saying it. I was so relieved that somebody was being a spokesperson and just calling it out. When I was a little girl and I started to understand the concept of death, I asked my mother, what happens if I stop existing when I die? I used to ask her a bunch of philosophical questions. It would just drive her crazy. She'd say, Alana, can you please be more shallow? Can we talk about shopping or sports? But I had a burning question inside of me. I couldn't make sense of this world and this reality, the construct that most humans build to create the illusion of security and continuity. My mom said, if you stop existing, then you won't know it. There won't be a you to know it. So where's the problem? And oh my God, I did not like that answer. I went to priests and ministers to tell me about God, different religions. And then when I was 21 years old, here was this woman saying, there is no self. The self is the illusion. Yet she seemed to have a self. She had all the human emotions. I experienced her getting angry during a workshop, and everybody in shock because there's some sort of belief around spiritual conscious people that they shouldn't have emotions, that anger and things like that are a lesser, less conscious thing. And she'd say, no, you're still human, your humanity, your particular personality doesn't go away. And it's not until self is gone that you see what it actually is. It's not something that anyone would have picked up on had they not heard her speak and listened to her books about her inner experience, her life experience. I would say she was more real than a lot of the gurus and that put on a certain face to get money from people. They give you some truth, but then they also stroke the ego. They also welcome being worshipped. The identities that we take on, even the good ones, become our prison. Having to live up to that. I'm reminded of an experience I had with my son Torin when he was about 5 years old at the lake. He was floating on his back in this vast expanse of water. And I was kind of teasing him and playing with him, and I was like, "What are you, fish?" And he was like, "No." I said, "Are you a shark?" "No." "Oh, you're Torin." "No." And he started to get fed up with me. He said, "Mom, I'm nothing." And he laid back in the water in total bliss. Total freedom. Not having to be anything. Silence. Stillness. Being rocked by the Great Mother. Held by the Great Father. We fight so hard to maintain our identity. And I think deep down we know that that's a losing battle. That what we are cannot be contained in words and concepts, ideas. We're a mystery even to ourselves. To be committed to be in relationship with the great mystery. That's when life really starts. And like the great mystics, and gurus, and teachers say, you are that. And like Jesus said, come all you who are heavy laden, burdened by the weight of trying to uphold these concepts and ideas about yourself. I added that part. And I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy And my burden is light. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.